I'll call the meeting to order.
The meeting's been posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Seeger.
Here.
Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Commissioner Arndt.
Here.
Commissioner Batani.
Here.
Commissioner Hayes.
Here.
Commissioner Lederhouse is excused, and Commissioner Morath.
Here. Just a reminder to everybody, we are trying to televise these meetings, so anytime you're speaking, us or participant, please use the microphone so everybody can hear via YouTube. With that being said, is anybody here to speak during citizen participation? I'll close citizen participation and move on to approval of the Planning Commission minutes from August 8th, 2022.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carries. On to sign permit for Social Affair in Downtown Design District located at 2919 Main Street. ROP 00100, Vicki McCone, owner. Mike Ames, signed contractor, application 2022-31. Anybody have any questions about memo?
The only thing I was going to ask, it's at the bottom, it says the sign is not directly illuminated. Is it internally? I mean, is it just the street lighting, or?
There really isn't any lighting internally, externally, other than the street light.
Okay.
You see the two gooseneck lights on either side, but again, the sign in and of itself is not lit.
I understand. I just wasn't sure if there was some, like, I didn't see the two little fixtures on either side. That's why so that answers my question.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion, we approve, approve the wall sign for Social Affairs proposed based on the four above mentioned criteria listed in the zoning code as presented.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, on to conditional use for contractor yard located at 2728 Buell Drive, RA 2807000003. Motion engineering applicant, application 2022-27. I'll open the public hearing. Maybe take the stand and quick explanation of what you're trying to do in that location.
Scott, was this the old glass plant? Or?
That is,
okay.
yes.
Nope. Just a conditional use permit for basically contractor storage at that building. I currently have a location over in Kenosha, but we just do service work all over the country. And ended up going this way because I was getting a lot of my stuff stolen over in the Kenosha area. I didn't have a nice fenced-in area and came across that building and thought it was going to work perfect for what we do. And I got a lot of trailers and I got a lot of trucks and but I don't, the building's sat and it's probably how it's going to sit, kind of. I mean, I've been, just in and out of it, checking on stuff, but really it's just mainly to keep all my stuff together or work on some stuff under the big building that's there if I need to, for my customers. Do a lot of work with like the Wallbeck Group and all the asphalt companies, and I work on asphalt plants, and so do pipe work and we do everything as far as an asphalt plant goes, putting it up. So sometimes I get leftover stuff and materials, mainly just like pipe if I need to, but take it back to my yard and have it there for the next job. And I don't do any sort of retail sales or anything. If I do any sales, it is actually out of my Kenosha branch and just industrial parts and stuff that I sell. So.
It is open for public hearings. Is there anybody that wanted to?
Able to state your name and
Michael Petrie. Oh, would it be my business address or my house address? Which one do you want? 12620 Blue Stem Trail, Caledonia, Wisconsin 53144, or 108.
There's nobody to speak on the public hearing. We'll close the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, Tim. Tim first, and then we'll close the public hearing.
Yeah. We can sit down in case there's any comments or questions, but, again, looking at the staff report, this is a conditional use, and, on the first page, I did clip a little section out of his narrative. He did talk about, you know, equipment for retail sales, but essentially it's bits and pieces that he might get, and then trying to resell it. It's obviously just gonna be a minor component of his business, just like somebody gets an old truck, they buy and sell it, so on and so forth. So, with that understanding, it would qualify as a contractor yard. Use description there, and it's pretty pointed to say that there can't be any, you know, sales, you know, like a contractor would sell lumber or mulch or whatever. I believe this is a little bit different. Again, I mean, I think he explained it. Most of the sales are going to occur at his other location. Aside from that, basically, there's gonna be no site improvements. He's not changing anything other than walking in and using what's there. Again, under Act 67, there are some, you know, potential evidence definitions familiar with. Plan Commission makes a recommendation to the village board. The village board will consider this at their next week's meeting, and they'll make the final decision at that time. There are some findings on the the third page that need to be, you know, thought about. We have not received any public comment. There was a public hearing notice. Letters were mailed out, and on the fourth page is a diagram showing the different buildings. Contractor storage buildings on the backside of the property are essentially the Quonset hut kind of style building. The contractor storage will only occur within the buildings or on the asphalt or the concrete. We have an open space on the east side of the parcel that will remain open space. And Mike, I had a question about the bulk fuel storage. Yeah. Great. Good. So with that, there is a proposed motion. There are 3 conditions for your consideration. And as a second part of the agenda is the actual site plan of operations. Comments, questions? Pretty straightforward.
Anybody have any questions?
The fuel question was answered.
I'd be looking for a motion on the conditional use. Okay. Now I will close the public hearing. Then I'll be looking for a motion on the conditional use.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the site plan, plan of operation as set forth in the submittal documents, subject to the following 3 terms and conditions.
Nope, not that one. You gotta do
That is the first one, isn't it?
top of page 4.
That. I will make a motion to recommend to the village board the approval of the conditional use, subject to the terms in the draft conditional use order dated September 9th, 2022.
Second.
Any other discussion?
So, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that you've seen the conditional use order. Do you have any comments, questions about that?
Not under this conditional use, right? Okay, so there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the second phase of this, which is the site plan of a contractor yard located at 2728 Buell Drive to RA 28070003. Motion Engineering applicant, application 2022-28. We're right there at that one.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the site plan, the plan of operation that's set forth in the submittal documents, subject to the following 3 terms and conditions as listed.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, text amendment to the Honey Creek Plan Development District, for Toronami Builders. Applicant's application 2022-29. I'll open the public hearing.
Ryan Cardinal, Cardinal Engineering, 1200 LaSalle Street, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, 53147. I'm here on behalf of Toronami, for the Honey Creek Apartments. This is, as you know, I guess I'll take the opportunity that since we're requesting a change to our plan development, is what this application is for. I'll give you a little update on how the construction is going. So, one of the buildings is has its occupancy, and currently there's 58 units in the building and 48 are rented out. So it's filling up very quickly, and there's still a waiting list. They're finishing up those units, and then they're getting ready to finish trimming out that second building. So it's already showing its success. So this is, again, this was a planned unit development that's a part of in East Troy you do an ordinance. So in that ordinance we had the outdoor storage or outdoor parking, separate buildings with the apartment buildings. And as Toronami was developing this, they realized that that parking was of high value, and so they decided we had a connector road that was between the apartment building and the storage units, if you remember back to when we had that approved. We've removed that little connector road that's between the apartment complex and the storage units. They still have their own access, can go back and forth through the public infrastructure, but that road's now removed, and we added the parking garage, or a detached parking structure for more people, because it's just such a high demand for these covered parking. So that's basically it. There was a very strict number that was in our GDP in the ordinance, and so we've added one more of those. We did a detailed review of all the impervious surfaces, and we're still within those allowances that were originally there. So there's, I think, Tim did a nice job of detailing that in his report. If you have any questions about those, of what that actual text change is in the ordinance approval. Okay, thank you.
So just real briefly, this is an application that was submitted by the petitioner. We put that into a draft ordinance form that's included as part of the staff report. Again, just a minor change with regard to what was allowed originally. And the second part of this is actually going to be looking at the final development plan, which has this change plus some other changes. So, again, public hearing, Plan Commission recommendation.
Tim, when we talk about this building and where we're at right now with this text amendment change, one of the concerns that I had when looking at this, but you're right that apartment complex it's an attractive complex. Did a great job on it. Looks awesome. I believe that you're filling it up because of the good job you did on design and the workmanship that you've done on that building. One concern that I had was that maintenance building. I did pull up to it and see pole barn style. we had originally discussed the storage shed areas, we had lengthy discussion about aesthetics and making it a little better than just a tin building. Not what was done within that area and then an existing maintenance building. Shame on us, because now we have that in there, which may be setting a precedence. But adding in this next phase, this text amendment change, in looking at what the design is, it's a much different building than the other storage buildings that are there. Much larger, larger doors, larger height, everything to it, which makes it an even larger profile for what ends up being a pole barn style building within our industrial park that we're trying to keep a certain, sure, and as soon as I'm done you can comment on it, but we're trying to keep a certain standard in there to maintain property values for those that are developing in the area, and trying to keep those aesthetics as clean and neat looking as possible from roadside views, of which this new proposed building would be a direct view from that cul-de-sac area or roadway coming into the industrial park. So I guess I'm questioning that aesthetic value of that building.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. So thank you for that. So the storage building you're referring to is on the site plan and that's only for those maintenance of those apartment buildings. That's not the storage units that we proposed that are next to it. So those storage units are not that typical plain building that we proposed, and it was in all of the building plans. It's got stone facade on the side of the building. It's very much architectural pleasing for the actual storage units. That's standalone, isolated as part of just the apartment buildings and separate to that. So that building, again, is a standalone building to itself. It's not setting a standard for the storage units because, again, we had very clear architectural plans that were for those. And again, those are different than the garage units as well. Kyle, do you have any of the garages 100% finished yet? And that's not what you're referring to. Yeah. So those detached garages will wrap now and actually come completely in front of that particular maintenance building that you're talking about. That's just the pole barn. So that'll essentially be hidden by that garage that we're proposing that will have the architectural finishes on it as well.
So the finishes on this proposed building for storage units, it's much larger. Am I right in that? About a 12-foot doors on those, or is that bigger than that? 14-foot doors. So, you know, they're larger than the other storage units that have been proposed in that area. So it'll have more of a grand view of sorts of that tin structure of a pole barn-like style. Great that you're going to do a 4-foot ribbon around the perimeter with brick, but little concerning that that's what we're going to aesthetically see.
Okay.
Is that look around the building.
Understood. All right. Thank you.
Can that be adjusted?
In the packet, do you have what the building plans were proposed for that building? That one. Yep.
So just to clarify, the agenda item that we're on right now is to make the text amendment to allow the additional garage on the, multifamily parcel. Two separate things,
Yeah,
but obviously related.
I know I'm
Yep.
jumping on it, but we've got kind of two topics. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. So let's talk about the garages then first, okay? Kind of X out what I've gone on my little rant about. And let's talk about those garages. Those garages are just kind of a match to what the existing apartments are, and makes sense to put an extra garages up there for these apartments.
We're discussing the 130 by 24 way at the end, right next to the maintenance building.
Yes. Anybody have any questions about this?
I'm assuming it's going to be built the same way the other garages are, so.
Any comments from the public on this at all? No? I will close the public hearing then. Maybe looking for a motion on those garages.
I will make a motion to approve the proposed revisions to the final development plan, subject to the following terms and conditions. One, the village board approves and amends, an amendment to the section 510-201 to allow an additional residential parking garage. And number two, the village engineer grants approval.
So just to clarify, again, we're on the agenda item to amend the zoning code in regard to section 510-201, sub B, sub 1, sub C, that talks about the number of attached parking garages.
I'll make a motion to approve, or I'm sorry, recommend the village board the approval of the proposed ordinance as drafted.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Now on to the next one that I mentioned over, sorry.
Again, to set the stage on this, basically a plan development district is done in two phases. The first is basically the text that allows the development in the first place with the development standards and so on and so forth. And then the final development plan is much like a site plan. It shows where everything's going to be located, access and building types and so on and so forth. So that's where we're at. They're proposing a number of changes to the final development plan, and we're just referring to this as a first amendment and the last amendment to the final development plan, but that's kind of what we're talking about. And Ryan, if you would just kind of walk us through all the different changes, perhaps starting with the easy ones first.
Sure. So again, the easy one is the same as the other sides. We removed the driveway that connects the two. The bottom left of this plan, the bottom of the sheet's left side, which the mouse is currently over, we extended that building. It was, how long was it before, Kyle? Do you recall? 50 by 1. So it's 50 by 160 before, and so now it's 50 by 210. And then we added an office, so somebody could work out of, or the storage units can operate out of that office directly there where the mouse is over. And then the open space that we had that's directly above that, we've added that 50 by 60 building right there. So everything else is the same. It's just we elongated that building to 50 by 210, added the office building, and then added the 50 by 60 building that was in the now vacant space because we didn't have the driveway connection.
Is that open space going to be paved?
Yes, that's paved for the purpose of vehicle movements, not for outdoor storage. I figured that's where you were going. 100% outdoor storage isn't allowed in our planned unit development already. It's just for vehicles turning because those are a little bit bigger for maybe squaring up an RV or something like that to get into that building, not for any outdoor storage. So if you wanted, I'm happy to discuss the architectural piece of that. I don't know if we would be able to do that if you don't have any other questions on the site plan.
The architectural of the 50 by 60 building in the corner? That, is that the same as the new, now proposed 50 by 210?
Yes, sir. All those have that same, they're the pitched roof with the ribbon of stone along the bottom.
New 60 or 50 by 1 or 210 and the 60 building, those are both taller than the other storage units within that space.
So, yeah, I just want to clarify that this building's been there as that, it's just longer now. So that was there before, it's just we elongated it and then added the storage unit onto it. I'm sorry, not the office onto it. And again, I do recall we went in detail on these. We wanted them to look very nice. So if there's something specific you're looking for on this particular building,
What kind of siding? I know you're putting a brick ribbon. What other kind of siding are on these units?
that is metal siding, correct, Kyle? Yep.
Like a metal pole barn?
It is that more style, yep, yes.
Voice theirs or have any concerns? Fine, that's fine as well. I just have one.
Just to clarify too, those doors are facing inward, facing the apartments, they don't face out toward the roadway. So that is, and then there'll be landscaping along that, the roadside as well. The doors don't face out.
Looking for any comments that anybody has on the
Well,
building itself.
we're still gonna be discussing some other items, right? I mean, we're not just discussing the 50 by 60 building or the extension of the,
As I read it here, we're discussing final development plan for the Toronto building area, which includes this extension of that main building, that 60 by 60 building area that used to have a drive.
we're not talking about the maintenance building in the upper corner?
No.
Ryan, just a point of question. So on the east elevation, we've got, basic, 3-foot wide doors.
Kyle's from Toronto, I'm sorry, I'm referring to Kyle. Do you know what the purpose of those are by chance? As long as they're not life safety requirements, because I know there's, ingress egress requirement distance. If it's a concern, I can talk to.
I don't know, Scott, maybe if, I think you and I built enough garages, sometimes you give a service door to a building so you don't have to open the whole overhead to get into it.
I don't
And I
believe
wonder
that
if
this is an
that's what
access thing. If
it
it's
is.
there, it's only because of an ingress egress distance requirement for life safety from, state building plan review.
Yeah, because this falls under a totally different plan. It doesn't fall under UDC. So yes, it's because of the distance between the doors. You need to have another access to get out of the building.
And we don't have a sidewalk back there or anything. It's not an intended access point.
So with Scott's comments and his concerns about the building, so there's no feasible way of making it look less like a pole barn? Make it pleasing to the eye?
It's also a question for Tim, because Tim, are we too late in the game on that? We've already talked about some of this stuff with this developer's agreement. I just don't remember this part of the building, and shame on me for not looking at it being this tall. I understood with the smaller footprint, the shorter buildings, that brick ribbon really does dress it up. It makes a huge difference, but when you have such a large plane that is fully steel, it's a different look. So that's all I'm commenting on.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. That's a very valid point. I don't believe that there's a lot I can have changed as far as the architectural, but I believe the simplest solution would be some tall landscape screening that would shield that view from any type of the road or from the south side as well. I think that would be the simplest path forward. Some arborvitae or similar, that's a tall screening that doesn't let you see that tall view of steel, so to speak, and perhaps lower walking view, you can see the stone a little more easier, I think would be the simplest path forward.
Thank you.
Again, to clarify, previously, the 50 by 160 building was approved as proposed. Now it's just correct. Yes, basically the precedent has been set. You know, we've already have an approval for the 160, you know, and now they're just proposing more of it. Again, you know, you certainly wouldn't have to approve it. I think the proposal for landscaping of some sort might help soften it. But again, without knowing, you know, how much and where and what type of landscaping, it's kind of hard to say that would make a difference.
Again, it was my oversight and a question that I had about it when I saw the topic. And like I said, shame on me for not really addressing this early on when we first talked about this developers agreement. I'm not looking for major changes, but I do just want to make the comment that now we've set kind of this precedent.
Do we have another step in another meeting, or is this done tonight?
With regard to the final development plan, the Plan Commission makes the actual, you know, it's a action. But it's subject to the, you know, the village board.
Can I get like a landscaper rendering with some, what it would look like for you for the next meeting, so that you can see and.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you can come up with something like that, that'd be.
And we definitely want to respect, you know, this is a nice area, and like you mentioned, they put a lot into their products, so they don't want anything that's detracting either. So I think it wouldn't be difficult for me to get a landscaper to do a nice elevation view rendering.
And like I said before, I am really impressed with what they've done with those apartments. I think they look great. They gave me a tour of them, interior, outside. It is a great development. I really do enjoy it. But just had some questions about this, and yes, that'd be great if you can get something to us in a landscaping design that would help out.
Happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, just a motion to table?
I don't think we even need to do that. If we can get it to us before planning, or no, we don't have to do the village board has to approve it? Ordinance part, not the actual site plan. Schedule. When are you guys planning on getting this started? Starting with? Yeah, but you're gonna start with the smaller buildings up front, I guess, and work your way to the back, right? Or are you going the opposite way, going in the back, the largest building first, and then going forward? Okay, then I think we've got some time then. We're not talking about not doing the development, but we'd love to see some kind of landscaping plan that does a little bit of screening. So if we can table it, I don't want to stop the project in any way. I know that you've been great partners with the community to do a great development in that area. We'd just like to see something that would be aesthetically more pleasing. The next planning commission meeting will be a full month. That's why I don't want to be a... Yeah, we can do that. Definitely do that. Okay. Sure, so I just look for a motion from to include the garage buildings and table the...
So probably to clarify, the intent is to approve the final development plan for the multifamily parcel, and to table the all the changes with regard to the storage building property.
I'll make a motion to such.
Second it.
But I have down as the motion to approve the final development plan for the multifamily parcel and table the modifications for.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Got it.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to discussion related to potential amendments of mixed business light industrial design overlay district in, Article XX of the village's zoning regulations. Sorry, I'm going off.
Hi, Mike Tillman, MP Systems, 5477 Southwest Ridge Court, New Berlin, 53151. The reason this was brought up is kind of two separate issues. One, we were looking for a solution for outdoor storage in the westerly part of our property, and then the other issue was related to our operations being grandfathered in when we bought the property, and then the ordinance came out afterwards. So there was really four different items reviewing the ordinance that I wanted to talk about. So it'd be section number 510-202, and it's related to items 2 and 6, and I'm looking to get an exception added for MP Systems. So those items are for outdoor storage and vehicle storage. So this would obviously impact our operations as a contractor. So again, this was related to us being grandfathered in when we bought the property. The second piece would be 510-203, section E. This is in regards to the accessory buildings. I was requesting that language would be added where the planning commission could waive this requirement if the color of the accessory building matches the principal building and the accessory building does not face the public street. I did hear your comments before about the metal pole type buildings. This was something we were considering, roughly 400 feet. It'd be south of our north fence line, and it would be blocked from the view of Executive Drive. Section 510.
Just to clarify my comments, my bigger concern about that is the fact that it is adjacent to Executive Drive, and that is my bigger concern. Your building in question here doesn't seem to fall into the same category. Just more of it's hidden basically back in the property, is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought some pictures too that I can pass around, but the fact that it's in the ordinance, I just wanted to bring that up, that wouldn't meet the criteria of the ordinance as written. The third item being 510-203H, we're asking that metal panel systems may be used for accessory buildings, again, if the building does not face a public street and if the color of that accessory building matches the principal building. So basically looking for a more economical solution for storage of an unoccupied facility for storing materials that would need to be out of the elements, but not necessarily in a climate-controlled environment. Then the last section is 510-205. Just looking to add something along the lines of temporary storage containers are acceptable means for outdoor storage to support contractor operations. Those are something that we utilize to and from job sites to house minor materials and tooling. Not necessarily there for permanent storage, but it would be something we'd have in a yard.
Are they like the pods you see some people move stuff in?
Similar to that, it's more of the like shipyard containers.
Okay, so they're not as big, but they're similar in type and size, and
Similar in size, yeah.
but maybe half to a third?
No, they're pretty big. They're
Well,
40.
a shipping container's pretty huge.
Right. Yeah, that's
Okay.
what we're talking about.
Oh.
Yeah. For the ones we typically have, they're 40-footers.
So just real quick question, the accessory building that you're proposing, how big is that?
96 by 60. The peak of it would be 27 feet, 8 inches, I believe is what it came out to. It's 14-foot doors. I have, again, some handouts I can pass around, but there's pictures from the street and then pictures looking from north to south, and then same thing from south to north. I have 2 pickup trucks staged, where the proposed location would be. First pickup truck being the front of the building, the, furthest pickup truck being the, rear of the proposed building. And also a, sample of the building along with the, color match that we would use.
So right now, you're proposing the one accessory building of that size?
Correct.
Are you thinking of 4 down the
No.
road?
So those are really the 4 items.
So I can touch on the first one. Actually, we, this ordinance created the overlay district after the fact, so to speak. So whatever you had established at that point in time when this ordinance went into effect is grandfathered in, and we don't need to change the ordinance to allow that to happen again elsewhere within the overlay district. So there really is no necessary change to that part of the ordinance.
Okay, yeah, my main concern was, if I wasn't around, right now you, Eileen, and myself are well aware of that, but, somebody else, comes in, are they gonna be able to find that information?
So I'm not sure if Eileen mentioned it, but there is a process that we can go through to basically, document the non-conforming use nature of what you have. So
Sure.
there will be a record saying we went through the process, this is what was previously, allowed, currently not allowed, and it's all documented, so record of that.
Yeah, as long as it's documented, that would be fine.
So with that, obviously it's a policy choice, just like there was a policy choice when the overlay district was created. We'd spent a fair amount of time, talking about it. Did send it out to all the current property owners and said, what do you think? And we got thumbs up or, no comments, whatever. And the difficulty again is basically, carving out something in this instance, but not have it replicated elsewhere. So that's kind of the difficulty, not to say that it can't happen. That's just kind of the background.
So again, just reiterating that I was really concerned more about the Torontomy development because of being adjacent to the main road coming in there. I wonder if there isn't something we could identify with our overlay district there that would identify the existing buildings, screening this kind of storage building, then be allowed in that park, that they can continue this process. There is no questions about it. At a dangerous slope to do that. I'm looking for your advice, Tim.
Well, I mean, words can be drafted to accomplish what your intent is.
Just looking for a picture, I don't know how, I just couldn't find it. I don't know how many of you have been out to the park, but I did talk to one of the unique characteristics of this property is that the elevation of the property is higher than the road. So when you drive up, the building is pretty high up, so it will block a lot of the view of that yard. The existing cul-de-sac it may end up ending where it currently is. It may be extended slightly depending on what the final user for the business park is. Right now, we have a pretty large chunk of land there. So right now, with where that cul-de-sac is, I'm not sure how much of it you really would even see from the road. I'm not saying you wouldn't see any of it, but it certainly isn't going to be as visible as some of the other properties. Given the nature of a contractor yard, obviously there's going to be other things in that yard as well. But I just wanted you guys to be aware that there are some different characteristics than there are for other properties.
Just looking at that final plan, where that road ends now, near impossible to see that building unless you're driving up into your contractor yard.
Yeah, that's correct. That's what I was trying to show with those pictures. If there's additional screening requirements, I mean, we would consider that as well when we do our landscaping, but, as of right now, I just wanted to bring it as proposed.
And I think that's a great idea, some additional screening. In case that road does go straight through, then we would need to have that not as visible, because now it is going to be more roadside facing, so.
Any suggestions there on what you'd be looking for?
We're talking arborvitaes, just like everybody's saying, and some basic plantings to shield that area.
Instead of seeing just a big billboard there.
Not talking about the expense of a large fence by any means, but at least landscaping. Am I wrong on that, Tim?
And that's if the road were to be extended, or yeah, okay, understood.
Just being a good neighbor is what it comes down to. Trying to maintain a certain aesthetic look within that industrial park so that everybody that's developing there, including yourself, maintains a certain value. You need to just allow for anything to be built, then that lessens the property value for your building and everybody around you, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants that kind of depreciation on their investment at this point.
Yeah, understood.
So perhaps getting together with your landscape architect that worked on the previous landscaping plan, you can get together with them and say, okay, what can we do here? And then that can be presented as part of the overall package. And it could be the case that you basically say, you know, we approve the landscaping plan, it's implemented if in fact that cul-de-sac road is extended, and then the landscaping would be put in at that time.
I think that's a great way to word it. Do you think, is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to approach it. And I don't think it would be that extensive to add something like that onto the plan. The other piece to the, that site plan that I had passed around is the distance okay? I mean, we're flexible as far as if we need to go further south, or, right now I think that's approximately 400 feet south, so.
If that distance works for you, I don't see a problem with the location of it at all.
Yeah, my main concern was matching the color. I mean, once you start getting that far away, it's hard to really distinguish what the material is.
Mm-hmm. You else have any comments? Anyone talking tonight? Me and 40.
So in terms of process, what we would have to do is, you know, put together, well, let's back up a little bit. The question is, there is a proposed, you know, text amendment to the, you know, just adopted overlay district. The question is, you know, should that burden or the cost be put on the petitioner, or is that a cost that the village wants to absorb? Basically, it's my time drafting up the ordinance and, you know, thinking about it and trying to make it all work.
As the petitioner had identified, they had purchased this previous to that text amendment being a part of that parcel. So I think it automatically lends to be the burden of the village to change that. Along in that thought process?
It's a basic policy choice. Yes, I would point out that, you know, the ordinance was sent out to all the property owners saying, here it is, what do you think? And, you know, maybe at that time they weren't thinking about this, but, whatever you want to do.
That's correct. I mean, we weren't thinking about it at that point, and the fact that we were, you know, basically grandfathered in with what we were planning on doing, it didn't come up until now, so and that's where I was looking at the rest of the ordinance, that I don't want anything else to become an issue in the future.
No, Tim's really
I
fast, so.
really couldn't even tell you. I would guess based on the number of hours you would estimate.
I mean, it's basically 4 or 5 hours of my time.
$7.50.
I think that the village should absorb this one at this point.
That's fine. But having said that, again, what I'll do is I'll draft up an ordinance for your consideration. Probably, we'll present it for discussion purposes at the next month's meeting. And then if you're so inclined, then you can, set a public hearing date for the following month. Basically, October and November is when the, hearing would be held.
That works for me.
Okay, great. Let's do that.
There's no rush on it, because the only way it would be germane is if somebody were to get the other lot and want to extend the cul-de-sac and et cetera.
But the other part that you will be responsible for is putting together an amendment to the site plan showing the location of the building and building materials and so on and so forth.
Yep, that's correct.
That can be done at the November meeting as well.
Scott, would we be in order asking them to along with the plans or what they're gonna submit, to give us a separate possible drawing of what would be done if that cul-de-sac were moved up, so that we would already have something in that file?
Yeah, I think that's what Tim is talking about, having done ahead of time, some kind of landscaping plan. I mean,
It'd probably cloud it and note it as future.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to release of highway setback restrictions for the two properties, RA 446400002 and RA 446400003, along State Highway 20, SRBR LLC, application 2022-32. This is a basic, state wants us to say we're okay with this, because the state is. That's it. It's that simple.
Is this for culverts that's going in there?
It's for a property that's owned behind the Shell gas station. That's all.
Everybody has been asking.
The property is under contract.
Could you in English, could you tell me again what, right now, they
Right.
have to cede some property to the
42
state?
feet is what the state is requiring for them to give up before they can start building, and that's a little bit too encroaching on what that property is, and would minimize the amount of space they can actually build. So the state is fine with us
Okay.
not requiring that 42. The state just has been burnt by local municipalities, according to what Eileen has told me. So we're trying to allow for them to do this.
Can I ask, I know it's gonna be a dumb question, but I'm known for those, so I guess I'll ask it anyway. But I do know from the discussions that we had when Mr. Frascona sold the property to the Shell station way back then, that there is a utility easement somewhere along there that comes off of 20 and goes towards ES. And I don't see it here, and that's why I'm asking.
Well, this isn't a plat survey, so you wouldn't see an easement. This is just a simple SketchUp or...
I understand. I guess the reason I'm asking is because usually utilities, a right-of-way goes from theoretically the highway back, and I just wanted to make sure that we don't lose something in all this other...
No, we wouldn't, because when they plot those buildings on those locations, they have to have the surveys. This is stuff that goes to the state.
Okay,
This isn't stuff that just Scott Johnson looks at. This is,
that's fine. I
little
just wanted to mention it, that's all.
With this?
And what I did find curious is I did have to look up the, when I was doing this for Dollar General, 'cause of the error in the tax key numbers, and that one does not have the setback restriction. So I'm not sure why only these two parcels, that I'm not aware that the Shell. Yeah, I think a motion, just a recommendation to the village board to approve.
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the village board to approve the release of the highway setback restriction on the two, outlined properties along Highway 20.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You got any suggestions for future agendas? Anybody want to bring any of those forward that are listed there? Maybe start having a conversation about the franchising.
So we did some basic research on that. I'm sure there's not a lot to go on. I've got, just some minor ideas. So that could be put on the agenda just for a discussion.
I think we should do that on our next agenda, with 2 open lots now on the, that area. We should really start talking about that.
Okay.
Our next meeting's gonna be October 10th, 30, same spot.
Scott, did we wanna talk about the third item there I brought up about the garage, side entry garages on homes?
I think that with the amount of times it'll come up, address it on a case-by-case basis.
All right.
It's gonna be kinda rare. I'm
I
thinking about
understand.
2 that are coming to mind right now,
I got that.
maybe a half a dozen.
The only reason I mentioned it is because I think it would behoove us to give that information to developers so that they don't have a lot that they sell a house and it's gonna be platted where it is, and all of a sudden they find out, oh, no, you can't put it there, you gotta move it back another 15 feet if you're gonna have a side entry garage. That's why I was thinking about, that's.
I think this is something that... All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting
Aye.
adjourned.